was exhausting, but I think I'm ready. Oh my god, that's a workout every time. Blanket's gotta go. It's too hot, too much. I gotta be able to like move. I gotta be nimble here. Okay, I'm ready. Welcome in. This is one of my favorite videos to do. It takes so long, but I fucking love it. We are reviewing every single book that I read this year in as few sentences as possible. I'm trying my best to like fly through them because there's over 100. But if I go off on a tangent about how much I love a book, deal with it. I made a little hot cocoa. This is the first time I've made it this year, and I mashed my mug. How cute. It's got a little Christmas truck on it. I only had a little bit of milk left, so I randomly put in eggnog, like a little bit of eggnog, and some chai mix to up the liquid in here, and it tastes really good actually. But I'm ready to get started. I'm gonna do them similarly to how I did it last year. I'm gonna do it month by month and just go in order. I've got January, February, March, and April down here, and then I'm gonna swap it out for all the other books. There's a lot of books I don't own, so it's annoying for me. I'm gonna have to put in the picture of the book. I will try to remember to say the authors. It has been brought to my attention that you would like to hear the authors. I forget to do that. When it comes to books in a series like ACOTAR and stuff, like Throne of Glass, I'm not gonna like review them. I'm just gonna say like whether I liked it or not. But let's get started. It is like really annoyingly hot outside. 71 degrees. I hate that. I'm ready. I'm so ready. I'm like nervous. Very first book, we're in January. Darling Venom. I'm already stumped. 4 out of 5. This girl and guy are both like pretty suicidal growing up. Like they are just not happy, and they find a relationship, like a kindred spirit within each other, become very close. And as the girl is like growing out of her depression, the guy does not. So he actually ends up offing himself very early on. That's not a spoiler. It's the point of the book, I promise. And then she obviously is like super upset. It jumps ahead really far in the future, and she rekindles with his brother, and they end up falling in love. This book broke me in half, and that's all I have to say. Like, absolutely shattered my soul. The Do-Over, 4 out of 5. This was a Groundhog Day trope. Dang it. Darling Venom, I already forgot. It was by Parker S. Huntington. Thanks. The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. She catches her boyfriend cheating on her at school. That's like the Groundhog Day trope, is like she keeps trying to not make it happen every time the day starts over and like keep him from cheating. And then every time the day starts over, I'm gonna be terrible at this. I'm just letting y'all know. She ends up like hitting one of her classmates on the way to school and gets a ride with him every single day. Like she's trying so hard to avoid that every single day. And so she eventually is like, fuck it, we ball, and she doesn't give a fuck about her boyfriend anymore. She's tired of catching him cheating on her, and then ends up falling in love with the guy she keeps hitting. Like clearly the universe is trying to tell her something. I liked it. I thought it was really cutie. I enjoyed my time. A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I gave it a 5. I was obsessed. Obviously it was the last in the ACOTAR. Can't say much about it, but I'm a Nesta girl. I really, really loved it, and I cried a lot. And I cannot wait for the next book. You don't want to hear from me when that next book comes out. Next was a Kindle book, Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer, the first in the Vancouver Storm series. The two main characters went to high school together, and it's a couple years down the road, like 5 or 10. He plays hockey, like professionally, I believe. And she's looking to get into that scene as like a employee. Like she's trying to, I don't remember for what, but she's trying to get into that scene. And she knows she needs to start at the bottom to like work her way up to where she wants to be. So she ends up getting a personal assistant job, and it's the guy she went to high school with. So she shows up and is like, oh fuck, because she had a really big crush on him in high school, and he doesn't say anything, and so she thinks that he doesn't remember her, so she's just playing it off. She's like, oh my god. And then it switched to his POV, and he's like, oh my god, it's her, because he had a crush on her in high school. Isn't that crazy? They end up flirting, and then they bring it up, and then it like is out in the open. It's a cutie little hockey romance, nothing crazy. I gave it a 3.75. I'm trying to follow a pattern, and I'm not doing a good job of it. Next was Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I believe this was a reread, actually. This is not the first time I read this book. I liked it a lot. Very toxic. Obviously, it just follows Magnolia and BJ and how they just keep fucking each other over. I think it's worth the read because it's like a Gossip Girl type of book. There's cheating, there's sex, there's really rich people flying to Paris for no reason. 4 out of 5. The amount of books that are going to be strewn thrown across my room is going to be insane. Betting on You, my next Lynn Painter, was a 2.5. I really hated this one. I love Lynn Painter's YA books, and I did not like this one. He was kind of a dick, and that was like the point, was he was the dick character, but like it just didn't work for me. The way he treated her didn't work for me. It was like, it wasn't in like a funny bully way, it was in like an actual rude way, and we just like moved past it. Just like, you're not going to treat me that way. I don't care if it's YA. Like it wasn't cute, and I didn't like it at all. But it's like fake dating, and they're basically trying to break up her parents. I think her dad died or something. Her dad's not in the picture for some reason, and her mom's dating this new dude, and she's just terrible to him, and he's like actually trying to be a good stepdad, and it's just like not really that enjoyable to read. Then 2 Kindle books. I read Squeak. Oh my god, that is so long. That's crazy that was this year. I gave it a 2 out of 5. I don't know who wrote it. I need to look that up. By Vera Valentine, and it's this one was silly. It's a little novella. It's basically 2 balloon animals that are under this curse from this woman who can like make them turn into humans, and their penises balloon up like balloon animals, and it's just like a little smutty balloon animal sex. I don't really remember a whole lot, but I had a good time. I gave it a 2, but like I had a good time. And then I think I was just trying to up my like monthly wrap up, and because I immediately read Riding the Headless Horseman. Gave it a 2.5. I listened to the whole thing. It was on Kindle Unlimited, I think. And it was just about her. I believe it was Halloween. Why was I reading this in January? But there was like a doorway to the afterlife or like death. I don't really remember. But she walked by it on Halloween, which is like when they could come out. She ends up falling in love with the Headless Horseman. That's basically it. I think he like takes her to his realm and they fall in love. It's definitely Stockholm Syndrome, like for sure. She can only go back and forth on Halloween night. So she goes back to the human realm and leaves him, and he's like, oh, how dare she, I thought we had something. But she was going to go find his head where it was buried and bring it back, which she did. So lovely little love story. All right, that's January. We are on to February. Ooh, that wasn't too painful. Oh, I don't know who wrote that either, sorry. It just says by Likovich. There. First was Wildfire by Hannah Grace. I gave this a 3. Yeah, 3 out of 5. Icebreaker was like one of my top reads of the year. It was a 4.5, 4.75. I loved it. This was such a letdown. I do not like a camp theme. I don't find them fun or cozy. I was never a camp girl growing up, so I don't get that nostalgic vibe from them. And she was really annoying. He was like almost 2 in his head. I don't mind a male character who's like insecure, but it was like every time we went to his thought, he was in his head, and it was just kind of annoying to read. I just guess I don't have empathy for that kind of thing, and I'm sure a lot of people do. Like I think a lot of people ate this up, but I just was kind of over it. Like I didn't love it, so it was a 3 out of 5. Okay, and then I think I found this in a little free library. Oh wait, first it was a Kindle book. It was Squeal. It was the Squeakquel to Squeak. That's what they called it. So it was the same idea, but it was at like a fair carnival thing. Oh, I don't remember. They were also trying to break the curse, and they found a girl that like their scent drew them to her, and they mated with her somehow by blowing their balloon up. I don't know, and this doesn't make any sense at all. I did like at all. I remember she had sex with one of them in a supply closet, and then the bad lady from the first book came to like take them because they ran away from like this circus thing, and she pushed her off the balcony and killed her. I was like, okay, get her, girl. And I gave that one, I think, a 2. Yeah, that one was also just a 2. Then I read You'll Come Back to Yourself. I found it in a little free library, and I like reading poems like this, and I think they're fun. I don't really know how to rate these, so I gave it a 2. I couldn't tell you a single poem in here, like what it was about, but just a little poetry book. And I don't know who that's by, and I'm not gonna look. If Only I Told Her by Laura Nowlin. It was the second to If He Had Been With Me. Loved If He Had Been With Me. Really excited for this. I thought the whole book was going to be Finney's perspective. It's not. It's only about a third of the book is his perspective, which I didn't mind as much necessarily because I think she did a good job with his story. Like it didn't need to be dragged on any more than it was. And I liked getting the parts of I feel like that's a spoiler if you don't know the first one. I liked getting the part that she showed us, and I didn't need any more details, honestly, because I would have been really upset. And then part 2 was the perspective of his best friend. Loved getting that. I thought it was really depressing and upsetting, so loved that. And then part 3 was our main girl's perspective, Autumn, post-trauma. So overall, a very upsetting book, not very lighthearted, but I ended up liking it. I gave it a 4.25, so. Next was my A Court of Mist and Fury reread. No notes. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. It is ironically the 3rd favorite in the series. I think it's a top toss-up between Silver Flames and this one for my second favorite. There's different things to like about them. And no notes. 5-star read for me. And then I read Powerless by Lauren Roberts. It was a 5-star read. I feel like I've exhausted how much I've talked about this. I don't care if it's not the most unique book in the world. I loved it. I also feel like you should know the plot by now, but like in under 2 sentences, it's a world of people with powers, and if you don't have powers, you're gonna die basically. And Peyton doesn't have powers, and she's pretending she does so she doesn't get murdered, but gets put into a competition for people with powers. So she just has to make her way through the competition without showing that she is ordinary. And of course, the love interest Kai, unbeatable. Fucking love him. Then I read The Love Wager by Lynn Painter, her first adult novel of mine that I read, and I just didn't like it. I didn't find the characters likable. I gave it a 2 out of 5. It felt like she was creating problems just to create problems. I honestly don't remember a whole lot about it because I didn't like it, and I just like blocked it from my mind. It's like absolutely not worth the read. And then I read Where's Molly by H.G. Carlton. Okay, this was like in the world of Haunting Adeline, because in Hunting Adeline, Adeline reads a journal when she's like being sex trafficked. Then she finds a journal from Molly. So this is Molly's story, and I liked it. I gave it a 3. I feel like if we had a longer time, like more pages to connect with her, it would have been higher. It was a novella, so it was like 200 something pages. I would have enjoyed it. I liked the guy. It was super smutty, so of course I liked it. It just takes place like on his farm, or was it her farm? It's her farm, and he, the main character, transports the bodies that she gets rid of. So they like have pig blood sex. If you just like find her backstory out, and it was cool. I think that's it for February. Yes, we're on to March. Oh my god, there's so many fucking books in March. A lot of Kindle books as well. The first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The first 6 books are all Kindle books, and it was the nope, that's Christmas. It was the Valentine, what are they called? I don't know what they're called, but those Valentine novellas I've talked about before. The first one was The Exception to the Rule. I gave it 5 stars. It was by Christina Lauren. I loved it. It basically followed these 2 characters. One accidentally emailed the wrong person. He emailed the girl, and the girl wrote back and was like, sorry, wrong person. So they just kept up like this funny, quirky Valentine's Day email thread. Like they would wish each other happy Valentine's Day each year, and then basically became pen pals and developed crushes on each other, and would share like all their life updates like each year. They ended up going to the same college, and they didn't know that. They just knew they were from the same area in town, like from high school. So she ends up getting a crush on this guy, her TA, and tells him about it, and he works out that he's the TA. So he's like, that's her. And it was just so cute. I absolutely fucking ate it up. Like I probably would reread it. Absolutely. Like it was really cute. And then the next was Worst Wingman Ever. These are definitely gonna mush in my brain. 3.75. Fuck, I'm gonna need to look who these. Oh, they're called The Improbable Meet Cutes. That's what it was. Okay. Oh my god, this was by Abby Jimenez. It's so funny. I didn't even know that. What was this story? I think this had to do with, it's the same idea where a guy leaves a note on someone's car, but it was the wrong car. So the girl gets the note and was like, I think you have the wrong car, and he's like, oh fuck, and then they like talk through the notes. She, I think, just like lets it slip that like she's really tired and like doesn't have a lot of time, and her car's like tire's about to blow or something like that, and he fixes it for her, and it's just like really cute. And they end up running into each other, very similar to the first one, like in the dog park, and talk to each other, and then they like work it out that that's who the other is, and it's very cute. I don't know what I gave it. Oh yeah, I did 3.75. Next was Rosie and the Dreamboat by Sally Thorne. What did I give it? 3.5. This was this woman and her sister go to a spa, and they have those giant bath things that like close. It's like a giant bubble, and you go in, it's all black, and you're just like floating in the water, and she's claustrophobic and gets stuck, so they have to call the fire department to get her out, and she's trying to freak out. And the main guy is a fireman, and he just like, he's known as like the pretty fireman, and he like doesn't do any work, he's just for the looks, and they all tease him about it. So he's like talking her through it, and there's just like really cute banter from it, and like she gets out and he's really hot. So that's basically it. Next was Drop, Cover, and Hold On by Sarah Wilson. I don't know who that is. No, Soraya Wilson, sorry. So sorry. I gave it a 2 out of 5. I didn't like it. It was like, she goes into this bakery where she just complains about the owner, that he's really rude, but he has a lot of stuff that she really likes, and while it's just them in there's a earthquake, so they're like stuck in it together. She calls him out for being rude, and they talk about it, and that's it. Next was With Any Luck by Ashley Poston. Oh my god, hey girl. I don't remember this. I gave it a 2.5, and I don't remember a single thing about that. Let me look it up. Oh, yeah. I didn't like this one. It was like the best man and the a maid of honor, lose the bride the night before their wedding, and they just spend the whole book looking for her, and they like end up flirting, and that was about it. And they find her. She never actually ran away. She and the husband like left. I don't know. I didn't really like it. Sorry, Ashley. And then last one I read was Royal Valentine. Okay, so I definitely said the wrong authors earlier. The Royal Valentine is by Soraya Wilson. Drop, Cover, and Hold On was by Jasmine Guillory. Guillory? Yeah, I think that's it. So this one's Soraya Wilson. Apologies. And it basically was like the princess switch. No, not actually at all. The princess wanted to live a normal life, so she goes and pretends she's not a princess and meets a guy who treats her finally like a real human. And then she finds out he was a prince all along who just wanted to be normal. So it was stupid. That's it for those. Thank God. And then I did my A Court of Wings and Ruin reread. 6 out of 5. It's my favorite one. No complaints. I'm obsessed with this book. That's it. Next was Bad Blood. I finished the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Loved this series. I think I gave this one though a 3.5. I loved the series and it's really nostalgic to think about, but I didn't like how she ended it. I feel like we built up this entire story just to kind of shit on the ending. So it just like wasn't my favorite ending. But then there was the novella, the 12 somewhere back here in it, which I gave a 3.5. It kind of felt like an overdrawn epilogue that we didn't really need. Like I didn't need an extra mystery story in like 100 pages. Next was 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. Absolutely obsessed with this. I cried so much. She takes over her aunt's apartment who just died, and they were really close, like closer than normal niece and aunt. The aunt had told her that the apartment is magic and she never really believed her, but one day she comes back and the apartment is 7 years in the past and there's a guy in there and she's like, what the fuck? So she realizes that the aunt was not lying and it's actually magical, and she can't control when it goes back and forth. So like anytime she would leave and come back, he could either be there or it could be present day. And so of course she falls in love with him, and it's just like he's a cutie chef, and I loved it. And it was really heartwarming, and it was more than just like a romance story. I don't know if I said this, but I gave it 5 stars. I'm like stuck between a 4.75 and a 5. Next I read Ward D by Frida McFadden. I gave it a 4.5. I was thoroughly entertained the whole time. I was even a little freaked out. It was nothing to write home about, but I enjoyed it. She basically she's a nurse and she has to spend the night in the insane asylum. There's one really dangerous guy in there who's locked up in like the mega security, and everyone's like, oh, he's escaping tonight, by the way. And she's like, why are you it's like, stop saying that, what do you mean? And he's really dangerous, and shocker, he escapes. So it's very, very fun, and twist at the end obviously was interesting. Next was Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas. I started Throne of Glass. I gave this a 4.25. Thoroughly enjoyed. I loved all the stories. I really liked reading it first and hearing about Selena's past and why she was the best assassin in the world. I would absolutely reread this, especially this one, I think, because it's the most nostalgic. Rereading it after I finished the series just to like see where she came from, it would hit differently. So loved it. Then was Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. This was my first Lauren Asher book, and I gave it a 4 out of 5. I liked it. I do fear that it was too long for me. Some romances that are overly long, I think that some work if you don't make it like boring. I just kind of zoned out a couple of times in here. I feel like a lot of it could have been cut. I did think he was really hot. All I really remember is she was this reality star person, like who does home makeovers with her fiance, and her fiance was the moneymaker. It was his like show, his family that was really rich, and he cheated on her, I think. So she gets the boot and she's like, what the fuck? So she moves home and finds like her high school rival who is also in home design basically, and they like work on a house together to get her out of her funk, and he ends up like doing these grand gestures because he's a billionaire. So it's definitely like, I would never think about that book again. Okay, then I read Romancing Mr. Bridgerton by Julia Quinn before the show came out. I gave it, I think, a 3. Yeah, 3 out of 5. I didn't like his temper, and I didn't love Penelope as much. Like, I don't have a connection with her, and I only like the Bridgertons, but Colin's my least favorite, so like, it is what it is. It just wasn't a favorite. Next, The Teacher by Frida McFadden. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I didn't mind it. I thought it was really gross, of course. Obviously, like, a teacher-student relationship when done incorrectly, which, like, that sounds silly because they are inappropriate and they shouldn't be done correctly, but this one was gross. But like, I enjoyed it, and the story itself, I was entertained the whole time, like typical Frida, and like there were twists up until the very last page, like the last paragraph there was a twist in it, so it was cool. It was a good time, nothing crazy. And then last one was One by One by, was it Frida? Yeah, I think it was Frida McFadden again. So I gave that one a 3.5. It was following a couple of adult couples midlife. They're like the 40s, okay? They're going on this trip together and they're all kind of going through their own struggles, and like the main husband and wife are like big time fighting and it's like really awkward. But then while they're all in this van together, the one girl like brought this strange man that she just started dating, so everyone's like, okay. And they get stuck and broke down in the middle of the woods onto this cabin. And he's like trying to take charge and help, but everyone's like, we don't even know you. Like, maybe you did this. And then people start dying one by one. And it's very scary. I read it all in one sitting. That's it for March. Okay, we got the big one out of the way. So now it's time for April, which will be very quick because a lot of it's thrown in glass. First was Thrive, a part of the Addicted series by Krista and Becca Ritchie. These all run together in my head. I couldn't tell you what this plot's about. It's just about Lo and Lauren. That's the same person. It's about Lo and Lily. Takes place during the time periods of the Kiss the Sky and Hot House Flower. So it was cool to see those. I liked it. It was a 4.25. That's about all I can say. Then I went into a heavy Throne of Glass month. So Throne of Glass, 4.25. I think every book is 4.25. Oh no, I have a reread in here. I don't know why I didn't grab it. Throne of Glass, really, really liked it. It was like the trial version before it becomes like fantasy. She just has to go through like all these trials and it's really fun and like fighty instead of like magic-y. Crown of Midnight, 4.25. One of my favorite endings. It kept me on the edge of my seat and I love Dorian. Then I reread Fourth Wing for the second time. 6 out of 5, no notes. Air of Fire. We are introduced to Rowan. I give it a 4.25. I think I would up this to a 4.5 though. Like after I've read most of the series, I think this is one of my favorites and it would be a 4.5. And I loved the end of this book. I thought it was so cool. And then we have Queen of Shadows. I fucking loved some of the big scenes in here. The end wasn't quite what I was like expecting. I wanted a little bit more. Like, it left me wanting. But there were some scenes at the end that I really, really liked. So, and I can't tell you what they were because I don't want to spoil anything. So it is a 4.25. Probably like should be a 4.5, but somewhere between there. And that's it for this month. So I need to switch out all of these for my next few and I'll be back. Okay, we are rocking and rolling here. Starting in May, I have Boyhood by Reuven Fenton. This was his debut novel, and I was so excited to read this. It is basically, I gave it a 4.5, which is like so shocking to me because it's like a Jewish story, and it follows, and like if you didn't know, I'm not Jewish at all, and it follows this man who thought he was Jewish his whole life, and like he married into a Jewish family. He's like pretty high up in the Jewish community that he's in, and then he finds out when his mom dies. He has a brother as well. Maybe a twin? I don't know. But he finds out when his mom dies, she wrote a letter to him and was like, by the way, you're not Jewish. I lied. So he's like just having this like huge life crisis because like his marriage is a sham. Like it's like a really big deal to them that like he was doing this. Like he sees it as like a huge sin. So he and his brother go on this like trip and it's basically just like them fighting most of the time because they aren't close anymore, and like they reconnect a little bit. There's funny parts. They meet up with like a girl. There's just a lot that happens, and there's a one-eyed dog or one-eared dog. I think it was one-eared dog. It's just very fun and cute, and like he puts a lot of pop culture references like Taylor Swift and like Epcot and stuff, but it flowed well. It didn't feel cringy. It was just really fun. And then, oh my god, I read the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey. I will say the series as a whole is a 5-star, but I'll go in and individually rank all the 5 books. So the first book was The Risk. I said rank, I meant rate. The Risk was a 4.5. Like right off the bat, loved. I was hooked from the start, and it just follows this woman who gets hit on in a bar by this man who's like cocky. He comes over like thinking he's gonna get her number, and she's like, bye, like leave me alone, and totally shuts him down. As she's leaving, she sees like his friend that he was with, and he like basically thanks her for making fun of his friend because his friend's like the hot friend who always gets what he wants. And so they just like kind of hit it off right away, and he gives her his card because he's in the FBI, and just like gives her his card to call him if she ever wants to. And so she ends up doing it, and they just like have instant chemistry. It's so good. The banter is so good. And then you find out like very quickly that she's a serial killer, but she only kills like really bad people. It's mostly like revenge killing because something really, really bad happened to her and her family when she was younger. Terrible. Like you need a strong stomach to read that part. The whole time his FBI team is searching for her. That's hilarious. That's just like book 1 basically. Book 2 was called Sidetracked. Honestly, they're gonna run together in my head, but I gave it a 4 out of 5. I don't remember. I would have to look at my Goodreads ratings on like why I disliked one more than the other. But it's kind of just like they start dating and she has to navigate not getting caught. That kind of thing. Because she still is like trying to do her job. She's still trying to kill these people. Book 3 is called Scarlet Angel and I gave it a 4.25. And then book 4 is called All the Lies and I gave it a 4. I'm just going to kind of talk about them together. But from what I remember, I definitely need to reread them. But from what I remember, there's like another serial killer out there who's after her. It's like a bad dude. So she's like, I will literally kill you. Like, I'm not scared of you. But the main guy, Logan, the FBI, obviously doesn't know that she's a badass and is like worried for her as his girlfriend. He thinks in the FBI that he's being targeted because he's in the FBI, like, which I guess technically he kind of is. So he's just trying to protect her. And she the whole time is like, let me go kill him. Like, she is trying to like navigate doing that. It's just like funny. And then book 5 blew my mind. It was a 5 out of 5. I fucking loved it. It was like her ultimate revenge story of like finishing her killings that she wanted to do and then like talking about their relationship and figuring out like if they're gonna work or not, that kind of thing. So just so good. And then, oh my god, Powerful, 5 out of 5. Follows the story of Adina from Powerless, and I'm not gonna talk much about it because it's a spoiler if you haven't read Powerless. It just like gives a side character a main love story, and I ate it up. I thought it was amazing and I cried really hard. Oh, that was by Lauren Roberts. Funny Story by Emily Henry. This felt really overhyped for me. I gave it a 3.75. I thought I had higher hopes going into this. It was like she is dating someone and her boyfriend cheats on her or like leaves her really abruptly for his girlfriend. Okay, so they are left like totally screwed. She's left without a house, so she actually moves in with him and they just like bond over that mutual shitty situation. And that's like all I can say about it is they spark up a relationship after that. And then I got to the book, one of the books of the year, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. Just absolutely amazing. I gave it a 6 out of 5. It's a travel nurse who travels to this place because she met this guy online, basically, who has the same curse she has. Like, this is so, it sounds stupid, but it's not stupid. They both think that every person they date, whenever they break up, that person then goes on to meet the love of their life and get married. So they're like, we need to date each other, like jokingly, so that we can get out of this curse and do it and like cancel each other out. So she gets a travel nurse like assignment with her best friend like / kind of sister to where he lives. So then they go on these dates, they create all these rules. It's very cute and fun, but like shocker, they end up actually falling in love. And he has a really shitty family situation with his mom. His mom's literally going to jail, so he's stuck taking care of all of his siblings, like basically becoming the dad. They're stuck between eventually her nursing like assignment is going to end, so she's going to have to go back and he can't go anywhere. So like they're in love, but it's just so heartbreaking, and you don't know if she's going to stay. You don't know if she's like going to give up this like nursing life that she's been living. It's so heartbreaking, and I fucking adored it. And then I had 2 rereads. I reread A Walk to Remember. This is just the first copy I could find because it's one of my favorite Nicholas Sparks movies ever, movies and books ever. Shocking, I actually like the movie better than the book. I feel like the movie had more to it because this is a very short book, but just I love Landon. If you don't know the story, you absolutely need to go at least watch the movie. But it's about this Jesus girl, like Jesus loving girl. She's the pastor's daughter and her mom died really young, so it's just them. She's just like this loser at school. Like no one talks to her because she's the Jesus freak. And the bad boy at school, Landon, he gets in a lot of trouble and is forced to go like into the drama club to like help himself and like his community service hours, whatever. He ends up landing the role of the main character, and she's the main character too, so he needs help from her. And of course they end up like falling in love, and she's like, you can't fall in love with me. And then you find out this really sad stuff at the end that I don't like want to tell you, but I cried the whole end. What is that, a 5 for me? Yeah, it's a 5. It's one of my favorite books ever. Then I reread No Exit, also like for the same reason as that. It was a 4.25. This feels like such an old read for me, but like very quickly, a girl on the way home from college stops at a rest stop and gets snowed in there with 5 other strangers, and she goes outside to look for cell service and sees a little girl stuck in a van outside, like in a cage. So she's just trying to not die and get the girl out. That is it for May. God, the next one's even bigger, and that one felt really long. We can start with June. Another reread for the same reason, Love in Other Words, my favorite Christina Lauren book. Childhood friends to lovers, second chance romance. It's just watching 2 kids grow up and like figure out they're in love with each other. It's just heartbreaking. I love it. 5 out of 5, no notes. And then I started the Heartstopper series, one of my favorite series I've ever read in my entire life. Graphic novels. If you don't know anything about them, it's just this boy Charlie who has a crush on this guy Nick who seems straight, and then they start hanging out as friends, and then they find out how that Nick is becoming a little more in touch with his feelings and realizing he likes Charlie, and it's just their life. And I gave them all, I think, like 4 to 4.25s, but like it's a 5-star series as a whole. Like I just loved it. I didn't know how to rate them because they're graphic novels, but it's a 5-star series for me. And it talks a lot on like Charlie has an eating disorder, so it talks a lot about that, and like Nick and his coming out story. It's just very heartwarming and I loved it. Next, that was by Alice Oseman. Next is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I will say, I think this is my least favorite one that I've read, but I still love it. It was still a 4.25, I think. It was a 4 out of 5. I don't really remember like the details about it, but he is a new guy that comes into this hospital and he's getting kind of shit on. People aren't like being very welcoming because he's supposed to be like this hotshot doctor. And so the girl, the main character, like kind of realizes and helps him some. And he's got like major anxiety. Like you get from his POV, he's like struggling with anxiety a lot, which I have anxiety, so I get it. And then it's just like their relationship blossoming, and she kind of helps him through. But okay, I remember why I didn't like it, because there was a lot of miscommunication and I didn't like it. I hate miscommunication. But I really liked it in the end, like really got me. Okay, and then I read Until You. I don't want to talk much about it. It was for a video. I gave it a 3.5. It's by Penelope Douglas. I just wanted to finish the series because I was in the middle of the series and I read them very out of order. But it's just a high school bully romance. I'm not gonna get into it. Next was Daisy Hates, one of my top reads of the year. I gave it a 4.75 by Jessa Hastings in the Magnolia Parks world. I think this is so much better than Magnolia Parks, and it's not as toxic. Obviously, there's a little bit of toxicity, but like the toxicity in Magnolia Parks felt almost annoying and like overdone. But this one felt like normal toxicity, and I just loved Christian. I love Daisy. I love her brother in that aspect of the book as well, with like the gang shit. I just really, really loved it. Another Abby Jimenez, I read Life's Too Short, 4.75. Follows a YouTuber who her whole story is her whole family has ALS and like has died from ALS, I believe. So she thinks that she's going to have it, and she can like feel it in her fingertips sometimes, like she's starting to lose feeling. So she's just like trying to accept that about her life and that she's not going to live very long. And then she falls in love with the main male character is like the owner of her building, but her neighbor, and he's so hot. Oh my god. But they kind of just like have a friendship with each other, and they both admit they're not looking to date. Like he just got out of a relationship, and like she obviously isn't, because she thinks she's gonna die soon. And then they realize they love each other, and it's just like very heartbreaking. She opens up about the whole ALS thing with him, and it's just going through that whole thing. I really, really loved it, and I cried, shocker, a lot. Ugh. Next was Normal People by Sally Rooney. I gave the book itself, I think, 4.25 at first, and I upped it to a 4.5 after a while, and after the show. I think it's not the same if you don't watch the show. The show just really adds to it. If you don't know, it follows Connell and Marianne. They're just very opposite. They go to high school together. They're not in the same friend groups. She's like the dork. It's very similar to A Walk to Remember, and he's like the jock, basically, and they fall in love outside of school because his mom is her housekeeper. It's just like follows them throughout high school, college, and their life, navigating like being together and fucking up and not being together, and a lot of depression, a lot of like losing people in their lives. It's just a lot, and a little book packs a punch. One of those books that changes your life. And then finally, last one was Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross, the second to Divine Rivals. I gave it a 2 out of 5. I feel like it was so boring. The romance wasn't there for me, and all I wanted was more romance. The war was so stupid, and it just was like the most obvious ending to a book I could have guessed. I just didn't like it at all. We are so close, guys. We have reached July. First was Reckless, probably one of my most anticipated reads of the year. I gave it by Lauren Roberts, it's second to Powerless. I gave it a 3.5. It kind of felt like a really long novella. Like the story itself, I enjoyed. I didn't dislike it. It just felt really long, and like a whole lot of nothing was happening. And it felt kind of reused. Like a lot of the conversations, a lot of the flirting felt a little reused. It felt like I think I've seen this film before. I was just like wanting a little bit of new material. Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I gave it a 1.5. One of the most boring books I've ever read in my entire life. Follows like this story of a little boy getting taken out of his tent with his friend in the middle of the night, and the friend never saw it, never heard it, never did anything. And it jumps to when they're like 40, and he moves back. He goes back and forth between like the time it was happening at like right as it happens to him now, and he is like stumped. Like he's to this day wants to know what happened, and it's just so stupid. Then I read It Starts With Us, surprisingly. I read it for video. I'm not just like out out here buying Colleen Hoover books. I already had it, so calm down. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5. Like, it wasn't terrible. It focused a lot on like the family aspect instead of the romance aspect, so I didn't mind it. Like the story with the kids. That's all I'm gonna say. Then I read, there's a lot of Abby Jimenez. Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I gave it a 4.5. Loved it. Cried like a baby. She comes from like a really respectable doctor family. She's really high up in her hospital. I think the hospital's her family's hospital. I don't remember. And then she goes on like a little trip and meets him, and it's like this little podunk town, and he's like lower class than her, and they fall in love. And he's a lot younger too. So she just has to like choose between a lower class love of her life or like her rich, snotty family doctor life. And then I read The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez, 4.75. Really, really, really loved, and like really, really, really cried. But it follows the girl who has like fertility issues, so she debates the whole book. Basically, like if she's going to have surgery or not, to like just be done with it, but there's like a slim chance she could get pregnant, but meets the main guy and doesn't want to put that burden on him because all he does is talk about how he wants kids and stuff like that, and he wants to be a dad. So doesn't want that for him, and so there's like miscommunication because she refuses to tell him that like why they won't work, and doesn't want to give him that option of like giving up his dream of being a dad. Like, I get why it was heartbreaking. I don't know. I really loved it. All right, we are into August. I only have one of these books. I first read Mile High by Liz Tomford, the Windy City series. Finally started. I gave it a 3.5. As I was reading the first 100 pages, I feel like everyone says this, the first 100 pages was really annoying. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like him. I feel like she switched up her words a lot and was trying to convince us that he was actually a really good guy when he was like being really shitty, and it was all for show, and it was like his little shtick. But like, it didn't feel that way. It didn't feel like a shtick. Like, his inner monologue was not a shtick. I just didn't like it. But then second half of the book, really loved. I loved Stevie. I loved the story. Ended up really, really, really loving them. So it went from like a 2 to a 3.5. And then I immediately read The Right Move, where it was in the same world, and absolutely adored it. I gave it a 4.75. It was just like such a step up. The main characters, like the girl was the best friend of the girl in the first one, dating her brother. She had nowhere to go, so she ends up moving in with the brother because the girl in the first one's like, oh, just live with him, he won't care. And of course, he's like super by himself. What's the word? Like, he's super closed off and is like, yes, the fuck I care. So he's really mad about it. But our main girl's like so bubbly and cute. Like, he's like, I can't stay mad at her as hard as I try. So it was just so cute and like so hot. And he went through like trauma with an ex-girlfriend that she finds out about and like helps him through it. And it's just so, so good. Then I read The Lion Game. This took me 8 years to finish. I gave it a 1 star by Ruth Ware, my least favorite book of the year. It was so incredibly boring and I don't want to talk about it. And then Gone to See the Riverman. Who the fuck was it by? By Christopher Triana. Christopher with a K, if you will. I ended up giving this a 3.5. It was basically, it's a very short horror novel, and the main girl is like talking to this guy in prison, a serial killer, and he asks her to go get a key from the guy, from the Riverman. And so she's like, okay. And we start off, she's in charge. She's like the caretaker of her sister, who is like the mind of like a 5-year-old basically, but she's a grown woman. You like want to know what happened. We'll go back in time to them as kids, and they have a little brother as well, and we're getting like little snippets, and you can tell we're like leading up to what happened. I like that it went back and forth a lot. In the present, she has to bring the sister with her to this like trek through the woods, and the sister's like not doing well because she's like on crutches and shit. It's just very dangerous. It's raining. They see creepy people, and then we like, well, in the past ones we find out she's fucked up, like super fucked up, and we find out what happened to the brother, and we find out what happened to the sister and why she's fucked up, and it's just so interesting. But it kind of lost me at the end. Like, it got a little too crazy. And that's it for August. We are in September, so I need to switch out books again. Oh my god. We're in the home stretch. Ooh, all right. September. Favorite book of the year, the next Mile High. Why do I do that? The next Windy City series book. I liked it so much I had to buy it. Caught Up by Liz Tomford, 6 out of 5. Follows Miller, who is like a renowned pastry chef at 25. It's like cat hair on me. And she's like kind of hitting burnout and wants to take a break. And her dad is the baseball coach for the minor league team in Windy City, wherever the fuck that is, like Chicago or something, I don't know. So she takes a break and goes and stays with him for the summer. The main guy, Kai, is on the baseball team, and he very abruptly became a dad. Someone showed up and was like, by the way, here's your kid. I was pregnant and had him, and I don't want him anymore, so he's your problem. So he, all of a sudden, at like 28 or something, 29, turns his life around and becomes the best dad dad he can be, but he plays professional baseball, so he needs help. He tries to hire nannies, but then fires them after like 2 weeks because he doesn't trust them. And so the baseball coach is like, oh, perfect, Miller, you be the nanny. So it's just a nanny single dad trope, and it is done so well. And she like brings him out of his shell and reminds him like to have fun, and like just because you're a dad, you don't have to be a stick in the mud, and like bring back that cocky, arrogant, hot baseball player. And so they're just so flirty from the beginning. I think that's why I liked it so much. They were so flirty from the beginning. Like there was tension, but like we didn't have to wait for the build up. Like it was happening from the beginning. And like I found myself in her so much, and I just really loved it. Then I read Brother, another top read of the year by Anya Alborn. That was a 4.75 for me. Follows Michael, who is in this family of serial killers basically, and they all have like a different role. So like the brother like kills, and then he is like the dismemberer of the family. Like he gets rid of the body. And so the brother is a couple years older than him, and they go to like this record store player where he flirts with this girl, and there's another like quieter girl that kind of flirts with our main character, and it's just so like cute. But then it also like they're a family of serial killers, so it's like super fucked up. There's just a lot of plot twists, and it's crazy, and it was so good. The plot twists up until the end left me fucking gagged. Then I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I gave it a 3 by Holly Jackson. I felt like this was super overhyped. I didn't really like it. It felt like it was trying to be Pretty Little Liars, but I just didn't care about any of the characters, so I didn't care what happened. Like I didn't care about the story at all. Like, if you don't know the story, a murder happened a while ago and the main girl's writing a paper on it and just tries to figure out the murderer. That's it. Ugh. Next was Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson. I gave it a 2.5. The most boring romance novel I've ever read. There was no chemistry. Super boring. Ooh, next was the next Windy City series. It was Play Along. It was a 4.25. Liz Tomford, obviously. And it follows the brother of Kai from Caught Up. And he's like the golden retriever baseball player, like super fun and cute. Always likes to make people laugh. He has like a crush on one of the trainers at the job. And she's always had a wedding band on, or like an engagement ring on. And one day she doesn't. So he's like, oh, fuck yeah, I'm getting that. The whole idea of the book is it opens up. They're both in Vegas for different reasons. Like he's there with the baseball team and she's there on a bachelorette trip. Her story and her family story is really fucked up, and so she gets really drunk and wants to get back at her sister / brother, one of the two, and she's like, Isaiah, let's get married, like really drunkenly. So they get married in Vegas, and so then it's just like them playing along the whole season of being married because her boss is really sexist and wants to fire her, so she's just like looking for a reason to fire her, and she can't lose her job. So they're scared that if they find out that the marriage like was a sham, that they're gonna fire her. It was a fun read, but like it just wasn't my favorite. Next was The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. I read this because I really loved the movie, and this kind of fell flat for me. I gave it a 2.5. I was just like kind of bored, and I didn't love the writing. You follow her in her POV. She gets murdered by this guy in her neighborhood, and then it like goes between her being in this like purgatory to her watching her family trying to solve her murder, basically. Then I read Lights Out by Navessa Allen. I gave it a 3.75. It kind of is like a tamer version of the same idea of Haunting Adeline, where it's like the stalker romance kind of. Very long story. I'm gonna try and do this one quickly. She follows a guy on TikTok who like does like hot TikTok lives and like hot TikTok videos, but he's wearing a mask the whole time, so she doesn't know who he is. And so she messages this guy she used to hook up with a screenshot of that and is like, would you be down to do this? And he's like, fuck no. And he jokingly, like to make fun of her, shows his roommate, and his roommate is the guy. So it's kind of just like that hot stalker romance basically, but like she's into it and he knows she's into it because he saw it himself. Okay, next I did the tandem read, Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. I think they were both 4.75. No, I gave Empire of Storms a 4.75 and Tower of Dawn a 4.5. But like I don't fucking know. Don't ask me. Can't go into much detail. That's about it. Really loved. Okay, next was October. I read The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Lori Gilmore. I had to, obviously. I'm gonna read what's trending. Not much to it. It's a cutie, feel-good story. I went into it knowing there wasn't gonna be much to it. People who just drag these books kind of piss me off because like, what were you expecting? Like, the author, I guarantee, was not writing to write the best book in the fucking world. She was writing to write like this nostalgic, feel-good book. And it was nostalgic and feel-good, okay? It was fall vibes. She opens up the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, falls in love with a guy in the town. That's all you need to know. And then I read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, the second one. I didn't like it as much. I gave it a 3 because I thought it was also going to be fall themed and it took place in the summer. Like the idea was cute and she was like going on the scavenger hunt of doing things that were like highlighted in books in her bookstore. It was cute. She fell in love. That's it. Next was Butcher and Blackbird. I gave a 4.25. Really, really liked it a lot. I ate it up. I thought it was funny. I thought it was sexy. The sex was really nice. It just follows like 2 serial killers who play this like yearly game where they are given a name from his brother and they both have to go kill him, and that's how they like meet up each year, and like the first one to kill him wins. And it's like bad people that they're killing, and then they realize that they look forward to it more than they should, and they probably should just like be together. But like it also goes into like them having normal lives, so it's not, I don't know, there's more to it than just that. Oh, that's by, who's that by? Bren Weaver. Next was Pucking Sweet by Emily Rath, the 3rd book of the Pucking Around series, which is one of my favorite series of all time. This follows our PR director in that hockey arena like team. She has like history with one of the players who has like always been obsessed with her, but she doesn't take players. And then she like drunkenly hooks up with a different player who's like the cocky piece of shit, always is a problem player. And she's the PR director, so she has to keep like his screw ups out of the paper. So it gets out that she hooked up with him to the other guy that's had a crush on her, and he's like, what the fuck, like I thought you didn't do that, and calls her out basically and is like, I want you. And so she's like, okay, you can have me. So then they are like both fighting for her, and then they're like, why not both? So why not both? Next was Nick and Charlie. I don't have either of these books because my sister-in-law is reading them. But Nick and Charlie, the little novella, I gave it, what did I give it? A 4.5. I cried really hard. It was just kind of like them navigating them about to go to college, or like Nick was about to go to college or uni, whatever the fuck they call it. That was it. It was just more Nick and Charlie stuff. And then I read Out of Order this winter, and it was the first Christmas of Charlie being back from his stay with like the rehab center for his eating disorder. I gave it a 4. It was very good, very sad, but like I have seen it before because it was in season 3 and I didn't know that, so it was just a 4, but like still good. Then I read The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. I didn't really like it. What did I give it? I gave it a 3. Not my favorite. I just don't really like her stories that much. I don't like the plots. I honestly couldn't really tell you anything about it because I don't really care. And then I read Alice Feeney, Good Bad Girl. I didn't really like this one either. I gave it a 3 out of 5. And I don't know much about it. I don't really remember. It follows a girl who like complains about being a mom, and then her baby gets taken out of the stroller, and then it like jumps back in time a bunch, but you never know who like you were in the head of. It was confusing, and I didn't really have that much fun reading it. So we are in November. God, we are heinously close. We have some good ones coming up, don't worry. My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. Loved this book. It was so much fun. I love a fun thriller horror type of book. I was never like scared. Like it wasn't that kind of horror book. I gave it a 4.25. It was just fun. That's the same way I felt with like Brother. I was just having fun while reading it. These 2 girls are best friends and they are having a slumber party with a couple other girls, and the one girl goes missing in the woods and comes back hours later like really fucked up, and she got possessed by a demon in this like shack in the woods. But like obviously you don't know that right away, and they don't know that, and it just goes through like the weeks after, and like how she'll stop like showering, she becomes like crazy, and it's just so fun to read. And the best friend is like the only one who's like standing by her because she's doing all this terrible shit, and there's a movie about it. The movie's not very good, but And then, oh hell yeah, Quicksilver, a 4.75 by Callie Hart. Look how beautiful. I love this book. One of my favorite fantasy reads ever. Right away it hooks you, and it follows this girl and her brother who live in like the slums. They're just trying not to die. So she steals something to try and get money from it, and it's from like the royal guards. And so she's like being run down by these guards, and they're gonna kill her if they catch her. Basically ends up getting caught, and the queen like takes her. She grabs a sword. I don't even remember, honestly. This part was, I read really quickly, and it was very early on. So she ends up like grabbing a sword and opening a pathway to this Fey land, and someone from him comes through, because apparently this hasn't happened in like years and years and years. So he comes through and like saves her, even though she's like an inch from death, because she's been fighting these people in the castle, and like brings her through to the Fey land. So she is now like, what the fuck, where am I? He is the man. His banter with her, his like cheekiness, his cockiness, so hot. The whole story is he needs her because she obviously has these powers because she opened this realm by touching the sword. So he needs her to help them with their main problem in the Feyland. That's kind of it. And then I read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I gave it a 4.5. I've talked about this book many times, but it's just like it follows the story of the band The Six and Daisy Jones, who merged together to become like the biggest band in the world. She falls in love with the lead singer who is married, and like they have this undeniable chemistry, and it is told in the perspective of like present day, all through interviews of each band member talking about the stories of the past. So it's very fun. Then I read the last of the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, The Christmas Tree Farm, or the last one that's out. There's another one coming out. The Christmas Tree Farm by Laura Gilmore. It is the same as the others. An okay read. I think I gave it a 3.5. Oh, I gave it a 3.75. I liked the Christmas element the most. It made me emotional. And it just told the story of the brother of the girl in the first one falling in love with the Christmas Tree Farm owner. Then I read The Wedding Witch, for some reason, by Aaron Sterling. I wanted to give it a chance because obviously I read The Kiss Curse and The X-Hex, and I wanted to see if I like this one anymore, and I don't. So it's confirmed that I do not like Aaron Sterling, and I will not be reading any more of her books. And I don't want to talk about it because it's stupid. And then the last book of the month was The Serpent, the Wings of Night. Y'all should know how I feel about that book. I do not like it. There were so many parts that could have been better. I think it had potential, but it never fully like developed the way I wanted it to. Like I never grew for the characters. I never grew to care for the characters because we weren't like given the opportunity to. But it follows like this human girl who is taken by this vampire king, and he like raises her as his own. She enters into this competition of 50 vampires, even though she's a human, who like every once in a while shows she has magic. So you're like, so is she not human? But has to make it through this entire competition. You have to partner up with someone who obviously is our main male character, like the love interest, and then you end up having to kill them because there's only going to be one winner. So the winner gets this like wish from the queen, the goddess that's putting on this competition. I just like didn't vibe with it that much, and I felt like the plot twist at the end, it was fine, but like I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me. I didn't love it. And we are in December. Oh my god. I also only have one of these books, and these are going to be very short because I not only just talked about all of these in a reading vlog, but I also like there's a chance I'm gonna have a December wrap up, so I don't want to like go crazy. I read the Merry Little Meet Cutes. First one was Cruel Winter with You by Ali Hazelwood. Loved it. Second chance romance done really quickly and really well, and that's all I'm gonna say. Merry Ever After by Tessa Bailey. All she did was tell you how large that man was, and I hated it. I gave it a 3. So I didn't hate it that much. I don't know who wrote this. One was All By My Elf by Olivia Dade. I gave that a 2 out of 5. I didn't like it at all. It was super cringy and the smut was terrible. Merriment and Mayhem by Alexandria Bellefleur. I gave it a 3.5. I didn't mind it. It was like a fireman story. Like she kept having to call the fire department, and it was just like between them. And then there was Only Santa's in the Building by Alexis Daria, and it's basically a holiday Santa party, and she hooks up with a neighbor. I think that was it. I gave that one a 2.5. Then I read one of my favorite reads of the year, How My Neighbor Stole Christmas. I gave it a 4.75. No, I gave it a 4.5, but I feel like it should be a 4.75 because I really fucking loved this book. Like so much. There was so much to it. So much more to it than just a holiday romance. She gave us the time to care for the characters, gave us a backstory, gave us the history, gave us everything, and I loved it. There was Christmas competitions. There was candy cane sex. I just ate it up. And then Set the Record Straight by, this was by Megan Quinn. Set the Record Straight by Hannah Bonham Young. It was a lesbian, quick Christmas novella. I thought it moved too quickly. There was no build up, and this straight girl realized she was a lesbian within like 2 chapters. So like it didn't build up enough. Like 2 out of like 8 chapters or something. It was way too quick. I gave it a 2 out of 5. And then I read In a Holidays. Oh my god, this is my last book. Let's go. So it was In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. I decided to give them a chance, even though like I haven't heard great things about their other books, and I gave it a 2.5. I wasn't obsessed. It was a Groundhog Day trope, which I didn't realize. So I was rooting for the wrong person the whole time. So that was it. I am in the middle of a couple of other books right now, so I'm hoping to add a couple of other books to the December wrap up, hopefully. Because if not, I'm just going to talk about this again in the drunk wrap up. That was all. I think it was like 104 books, 103 books, something like that. That was a lot. So thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna go take a nap now. I'm gonna actually start immediately editing because that's just how December goes. Thanks for watching. Hope you had fun in the speed round of the year wrap up. Holy shit, the books are everywhere. My room is in a state of chaos right now. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.